I just realized that my microphone was turned off the entire time. Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. Okay, let's get back a little bit. I'll just briefly summarize. Oh, it's been one of those days. Okay, I should be able to figure this out by myself. This is why we don't ask for help. This is me. I'm a career transition mentor. I do a lot of somatic and mindfulness-based stuff. Great. Okay, are you shitting on yourself? Yes, I shit on myself often, early and often, but especially around your career transition. These statistics are real. 75% of executive women report experiencing imposter syndrome, but 6 out of 10 say that that happens when their when they are transitioning careers or trying to move up the ladder. Okay, now let's go back to this part. So why does it feel so impossible to ask for help? Identity trap. You start to merge your self-worth with your competence at work, and they become fused. And so if you are doing things well, then you feel worthy. If you have to ask for help, you feel like you don't know what you're doing. And because I want to always feel worthy, I'm not going to ask for help. Can you see the logic in that? It doesn't necessarily happen in that logical manner, but it starts to grow in that way. The double bind is what I would also call a double standard, which we know a lot about with women in the workplace. And that is asking for help is seen as weak. But then if you don't ask for help and you mess up, it's also seen as weak. So both ways you feel that you're looking weak. And then the third one is the conditioning. And this is really important for women because so many of us get conditioned for this when we're young girls, right? Being vulnerable is unsafe. So if this happened to me, okay, I was mugged once. And it was very soon after my mom had been diagnosed with brain cancer. I was talking to my dad on the phone. I was carrying a bag of groceries and walking up the hill to my apartment in Oakland, California, where I lived at the time. And so I kind of had my phone on my, this is like before really earbuds. So I had my phone on my shoulder like this, and I was carrying the thing, and I had a hat and a dress on. Well, these teenage kids thought that I was like an older person, and I was distracted. And I'm sure that my body language was showing vulnerability because I was talking about something that I was really, really stressed about. And I had my other shoulder, whatever one, I had my purse. And so sure enough, a young girl came up behind me and tried to grab my purse and run. Thankfully, I was young and fit at the time, and she didn't get the purse. She tore it, but she didn't get it because I held on. I dropped the phone, dropped the groceries, and I held on to my purse. But it was pretty darn scary. It was super duper scary. And so I realized, oh, that's right. As a woman, if I have any sort of outward signs, physical signs of vulnerability out in the world, I'm going to be attacked, sexually assaulted, raped, or something. Like that's just reality. So that is a very practical and useful thing to know and to have that in the backs of our minds, but not in our career transition. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a time and place for that. And there's also a time and place where vulnerability can, when it's presented effectively, can be a very useful skill and can really move you forward in your career and certainly in your career transition. So that's one reason why high achieving women struggle to ask for help, especially around their career transition, because we are inherently conditioned to not be vulnerable. And then of course the corporate world supports that. Okay, let's move on. I really want to offer a reframe here that is super important. Being humble is not the same thing as being humiliated. Humility is not humiliation. And it is really, really important to know this distinction, Brene Brown essentially created her entire career on vulnerability, right? She wrote a bunch of different books on how powerful, vulnerability really is. I spent years trying to solve a Rubik's Cube that had already been solved, right? And that's career transition. But I insisted on doing it my way. And that was questioning, like, what do I actually want to do with my career? I also was being influenced by family and allowed myself to be vulnerable in a negative way to family influence, to social influence, all the things. I tried every angle. I thought harder about it. I researched, I made lists, I did all the things. I took straw polls of family members. That's a really bad idea, by the way. You know yourself best than anybody else. And if they're an awesome family member, they're going to love you and support you no matter what you decide, right? So I went through so much unnecessary suffering and failures. And finally, when I began to connect to my values and authentically talk to myself, authentically have a relationship to myself, I became open, and I attracted in, by the way, other women who had made career transitions and who were successful. In fact, one of the first people I ever met on LinkedIn was the exact coach that I needed all those years ago when I was in corporate. Now, by then it was too late for me, but the humbling part about it was knowing that had I been open to a support system back then, I could have possibly remained in corporate and made a boatload of money. I could have done who knows what else, and I could have done it authentically, being true to myself. So it was, that was quite a moment for me when I met that coach, and I was like, oh boy, like this was the boat I missed, right? And the boat left that dock, and that ship sailed years ago, and I could never catch it again. And I can catch a new boat now, which is what I'm doing. So yeah, think about all the lost years that I had because I didn't ask for help. Isn't that something? It's hard to talk about, but it needs to be talked about because it happens to a lot of us. And I'm here to tell you this so that you don't have to go through all those lost years like I did. So let's define what humble and humility is versus humiliation. So being humble is not having all the answers. It's not knowing what's best for everybody else. In a word, you're teachable. It's not needing to front that you're an expert in an egotistical way. And this is tough because that is how the corporate world is structured, right? And people who front that they're an expert in something in an egotistical way, they get rewarded with promotions and the like. It's letting go of pretension, pride, and self-importance. However, I do know what's best for me. And I coach my clients on how to know what's best for them. That's one of the big differences between how I coach and how a lot of others coach. I never tell my clients what to do. I invite them and provide a space for them to learn what to do based on what they already know to be true and the wisdom they already have inside themselves. So now let's talk about humiliation. That's being forced to admit something that you can't do, especially in front of others. I'm actually reading a book about Vietnam right now, and there was a lot of humiliation involved in Vietnam and how the armed forces were trained for it, how they the U.S. armed forces, how they acted in Vietnam. There was just a lot of chaos, but there was a lot of like fear of being humiliated that drove a lot of the behaviors of how the military acted during that time. So think of that in that regard. And the military, I have total respect for military and veterans and all this stuff. And as a result of that very terrible conflict, the military changed a lot for the better because of that, because they recognized those underlying belief systems of fear of humiliation that drove so much really terrible behavior in that part of the world in Vietnam. So, anyways, that's a way to think about humiliation, is being forced to admit something in front of others. So a big part of vulnerability and humility is about having courage to feel it and also to express it. Now, a quick note on self-expression, because I listed that here. You know, you could like ride a unicycle in a pink tutu all the way around the corridors of your office. You might not keep your job, but you could do that, and that could be authentic self-expression in your job. What I'm talking about is more about self-expression that may still be couched in corporate man speak or jargon, and yet you're still asking for what you need. And that's the authenticity piece, right? You can be vulnerable without exposure to your most deepest inner world, right? Being a little bit vulnerable by asking for what you need in such a way where you're speaking a truth that cannot be denied. So I want to really couch that you can have both. You can still use that corporate context or that job context and yet still be authentic without necessarily jeopardizing yourself. So that's what we're going to actually talk about next, our techniques to do this. So we didn't like hardly anybody ever gets taught how to ask, especially as women, and certainly women of a certain era, a certain generation. We were just conditioned that like asking was not a thing, that like somehow you were being a bad woman, a bad mom, a bad, support staff or whatever by asking for what you needed. And I am so grateful to hear and know that women all across the world are jettisoning that BS conditioning. Okay, because we need to do that. So let's really now, and this is really important also if you are in burnout. I really want to highlight something. If you're feeling extremely burned out about your current job, you don't have to like what's on this slide. You don't have to agree with it, but try it energy. You don't even have to have the energy to do it. Try it anyway. Just try changing your wording and see how you feel. See if it can start to shift you a little bit out of the burnout and into a little bit more empowerment, a little bit more self-assuredness, assertiveness, confidence, right? Just try it. Like I use a phrase a lot with clients, fake it till you make it. You don't have to feel like doing it. You don't have to agree with it. Just try it anyway and see what the results are, and you'd be surprised. And that little that there will be something that will shift for you. So instead of things like sorry to bother you, but, because the but is never really a good idea, I value your input on. I know you're busy, but I need 10 minutes of your expertise. Especially when you use the word expertise, then whoever you're asking, especially if it's a man, they'll be like, oh, she thinks I'm an expert. All right. My fakey fake ego thinking that I'm, telling people I'm an expert when I don't know anything, it's working, right? Right? That's what they're going to think. I'm so bad at this. Don't ever say that. No, you're excellent at what you do. You are. Instead, your background here is exactly what I need. Because the thing is we all have areas where we're really good at something and areas where we're not so good at something. And other people in our organization fill in those areas where we're not so good. So it's called collaboration. Like this, this is why we ask, right? We want to collaborate with the people who have better skills in certain areas than we have. And there is no low self-esteem, low self-worth by doing that, right? This is a really great one. Instead of, can you help me with this? Because that sounds very like kind of whiny and pleady. How about, I'm working through blah, blah, blah. Could you walk me through your thinking on this? That's really powerful. So then I leave you with a formula here. So, approaching somebody with asking in a workplace by saying, I've really tried blah, 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 blah. But what I really need, what I specifically need is XYZ. I'm asking you because I know you've got experience in this. Can you share with me your thoughts on this? What would be your take? What's your first blush on this? So now ask yourself the question, if I can do this in my workplace with colleagues, why am I not doing this for my career transition? I'm just going to pause there for a minute so you can reflect on that. If I can do this with things in my workplace, why can I not do it for my career transition? So now let's explore some possibility. Oopsie, I went too far. Let's explore. No, I didn't. I went to the right spot. Sorry. Let's explore possibly why. When most women are in mid-career and are in corporate, when most women try to ask for help or even think about asking for help, they feel some sort of shame. And I'm naming that word because it's a word nobody wants to talk about and nobody wants to admit to. I know I felt it. Now, it may show up in other ways like embarrassment, self-doubt, all these kinds of things. But really that core level of the emotion is shame. So the next tool comes from my somatic training. And I wish I had learned this sooner, but I'm grateful that I learned it when I did, at least to start using it. The thing is, by the time your mind has decided to try to ask for something, your body has already decided, right? That shame response is in your body. You may be ignoring it or trying to push it away, but it's there, okay? And remember, we are dealing with like hundreds of thousands of years of DNA that says, if I'm vulnerable, I'm going to get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, right? And so we're taking that like caveman DNA with us and having to now recognize that that is not useful in this moment in time. Like there's no saber-toothed tiger in the boardroom, pretty sure. Okay, so let's do a quick practice to really start to check in with ourselves, all right, around this. Now, if you can stand up, if you can't, let me show you how you can sit. If you truly can't stand because of whatever is going on in your body, then let's see if I can pull it back far enough. Then what you want to do is just sit on the edge of a stool or a chair like this so that your torso can be upright. Okay? So I'm going to be standing fully. Let's see how I can do this. Let's see if I can get it right. All right. So the first thing that you want to do is just imagine that you are about to ask for help, especially if you are about to ask for help for your career transition. Just stand here and breathe and imagine you're about to ask for help about your career transition. What do you feel in your body and where do you feel it? Where do you feel it? Do you feel it in your gut? Do you feel constriction in your chest? Do you feel it somewhere else? Maybe your neck and shoulders. So you can stand just in your natural position, feet hip distance apart. If you care to, you can also turn your palms outward, which is how we use mountain pose in yoga. And now what I want you to do is just take a deep breath in and then breathe that breath into the part of your body that holds the sensation that you felt when you imagined asking someone for help with your career transition. So I'm going to use the example of my belly. So as I breathe in, I'm really directing my breath into my belly. And now let it out. And then pause for a moment as I give you this instruction. We're going to do 2 more breaths. And as you breathe into that body part that had the tension or the sensation, see if you can imagine like the breath going in and expanding past where that sensation is. Okay? So again, I'm going to put my hands on my belly. So put your hands on whatever part of your body had those sensations. And now we're going to do 2 more breaths. Inhaling deeply. Breathe into that space. See if you can imagine the breath expanding past the sensation. And then let your breath go slowly. One more time. Breathing in. Expand past the sensation. Let your breath out slowly. Beautiful. Stand and breathe. Excellent. Now the next one we're going to do is put your hands on your ribs. Okay? And we're going to take our first breath in. And just feel your ribs touch your hands and allow your hands to go and expand with your rib cage. All right? Deep breath in here. Nice and slow. And exhale, nice and slow. All right. Now for the next 2 breaths, start to gently, gently put a little pressure on your ribs. And now breathe in deeply. And as you breathe in, press on your ribs. And exhale, release, and release the pressure. Last time, begin to press on your ribs. Breathe in. Breathe in, keep pressing. And exhale, release. Release the pressure, release your hands. Stand and breathe. Now imagine again that you are going to ask someone for help with your career transition. Notice what's happening in your body, especially that body part that you noticed before. Do you have another response in your body? If you do, then repeat this process that we just did. And keep repeating it every time you think about asking someone for help for your career transition. Do this exercise. And what's going to happen is that your nervous system is going to be changed. It is training. This exercise trains your nervous system to not react when you're going to ask somebody for help with your career transition. Okay. Oh, I should have taken this off. Oh well, I'm just a little bit spacey today. It's been another Monday morning for me too. Anyways, so basically keep doing this until your nervous system no longer has a physical reaction to asking for help with your career transition. Okay. What this is doing is, so do you if you've ever had dogs, because I have dogs, which I'm sure you all know, most of you know, when dogs get scared, if there's a thunderstorm or fireworks, because we just had this with July 4th, there's a thing called a thunder shirt, and you wrap it around the dog, and it's really tight, and it puts pressure on their rib cage, and it helps them to calm their nervous system down. So this is exactly what we're doing. This works for all mammals, and we're mammals. Even though we think we're all special, we are still mammals, and we can use our bodies to help ourselves. Okay. All right. So here's a moment to reflect. Who have you been refusing to ask for help, and what has it cost you? What about your self-esteem? What about, did you lose your job because you didn't ask for help and you tried to muscle your way through? Have you lost a relationship? Maybe you've gotten divorced. Maybe you've alienated one of your kids because of this. Who have you been refusing to ask for help, and what has it cost you beyond just the financial? And then reflect on, what is one ask that you could make this week that would move you forward in whatever it is that you are trying to do. What is one ask that you can make this week, possibly using some of the phrases we talked about, that could move you forward? All right, let's see now. Oops, I lost my place. So thank you for showing up today. You can see some links here. I put these links in here in this way because if people ever ask me for the slide deck, then I can send it out, and you have the links right there. So I will put these links in the chat. And let me see, I think I have to go there as a member. Hang on. Okay, so here we go. So these are all the ways we can stay in touch. I really encourage you, especially if you think that you are in burnout, to take the burnout assessment. It's like not even 5 minutes, and it will tell you so much about what's going on with yourself. It will give you so much information. And then schedule a call with me. This is a great thing to do, and I would love to invite all of you to practice asking for help about your career transition. It's totally free. It's 15 minutes. There's no obligation, and it's really just us talking and finding out where you're at and seeing if there's something that I have to offer that might help you, or I can direct you to other resources or whatever. It's just a conversation. But I'm telling you, if you're watching this, practice asking. You can do it with me. I'm safe. And if you put in the calendar invite, I am practicing asking, I'll be like, great. And so when you get on the call, I'll say, all right, practice. What do you want to ask? And we'll go through it. All right. Use this as an opportunity to practice asking. And then the Svoboda community, this is a really fantastic way to meet up with other women who are in your shoes, and also to find accountability buddies. I'm a big fan of that, and I talk about that in the notes in that group. So finding accountability buddies for all different things is a great way to help lift you out of burnout and lift you into openness and willingness to explore your path for your career transition. So that's all we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. And I hope you found some really great benefit from this presentation. And I really look forward to receiving your practice asking schedule on my calendar. All right, take good care. Enjoy the rest of your week. And I will be seeing you again on July 20th for our next topic. Bye.